Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Today on What's That Vehicle, we have a 2023 hitchless Ford Maverick, and we're going to change that, so let's get into it. First things first, we're going to go ahead and get these taillights out by removing the two flex bed panels on either side. Alright, so we got both of these off. Comes 4 screws or 4 bolts. So pretty straightforward. And the reason why you need to take these off is for the following. Now I can't zoom in on it, but if you look right here, there's a little clip. And there's two. There's one here and then there's one up inside. That is what keeps the side of your tail light fixed to the truck, along with 2 bolts over here on this side. So whenever you go to take your tail lights off, it is crucial that you make sure that these clips come out intact. Otherwise, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. Something interesting to know is that on this side, it actually goes all the way down and through the truck, and I can see the ground. But over on this side, which is a little dark, there's actually a plate, or well, a plastic cover underneath. And the reason why is because on this side, the driver's side of the truck, is where the exhaust comes out. Alright, so there's 2 bolts, and they are, I think, either 8mm or 7mm, and they're also Phillips heads. So we'll go ahead and begin to loosen those up. You want to make sure that you're extra careful with this part, because like I said, if you're not, you could crack the plastic on your headlights. You could break off one of the tabs. You need to be extremely careful about this part, plain and simple. That's the whole reason why I'm keeping my hand up against the side of this taillight, is because I don't want anything to happen to it at all. I don't want it to slip, I don't want it to scuff the paint, nothing. So now that we've got both of those off, I'm going to come in, and there's these 2 little clips that you need to make sure you get pushed in. Now on the other side, they are pretty easy. Alright, so sorry I had to cut there. I was just having a hard time trying to figure out how to get these clips undone. And they're not necessarily clips, so they actually are little prongs that go into these clips in here. So I'm glad that I didn't try to take those out. Now we got there we are. And there we have it. And that is taillight number 1 disconnected. Now we'll go ahead and move on to taillight number 2. Alright, so we got both of the taillights out. What I want to show you about those prongs is, so as you can see, there's these 2 prongs here, like I was saying earlier, and then here's the disconnect for the electronics. Whenever you're taking your tail light out, make sure that you are pushing from the inside, the flex bed area. Make sure that you're pushing these prongs out from behind. It'll be a lot safer. You could even get a pry tool up behind these and pry them if you were trying to be extra safe. Just make sure that when you're taking this out, that you don't try to get your fingers up on this side and then pry it out, because then that's how you could end up breaking your plastics. One last thing before we move on. The reason why you want to take these taillights out when you're putting in your hitch receiver is because if you intend to put the wiring in, you're gonna need these out. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the bumper. There's a whole bunch of little bitty bolts running all the way along across the bottom, and so I'm gonna go ahead and show you that. So as you can see, you have all these little bolts, and I imagine there's probably a few clips. I think there's 20 in total, as well as 2 right here on the side, so you're not going to want to forget these as well. So we'll go ahead and get right to that. Alright, so we got that removed. Now we're going to move on to getting the rest of the bumper bolts out. Don't forget, there is a clip on the plastic cover over here on the side of the spare tire. You're going to want to make sure that you get that clip out, and make sure that you keep your nuts, bolts, clips in a container of some kind like this, so that way you don't lose them. Otherwise, you're going to end up being a sad truck owner down the road. Alright, so we've gotten everything, all the bolts underneath done. What I was going to show you is that actually we have a couple more. You have one down in here. That little black speck right there. And then you actually have, probably a little too dark to see, but you have one right here, and then another one over here on this corner, and then right there. So you'll need to take those out as well. Alright, so I have an extension here, so that way we can get down to that bolt. Come on. All the bolts underneath are 7mm. And I'm guessing that these are a 8mm. So they were 8 mils actually up here on the top, and that's why I couldn't go on. So just for future reference, 8 mil on the top, 7 mil on the bottom. Just in case you forget. Alright, and that is the top 4 bolts for the top part of the bumper. Alright, so this will probably be the most stressful part for everyone, because it's just nothing but clips running along the top, so you quite literally have to come through and just gracefully and slowly pop every individual clip as gently as you possibly can. Which, doesn't that just sound fun? Alright, so once you have the bumper disconnected, and there's about 26 screws on the 2023. When you are disconnecting the bumper from the truck, there is, let's see, 1, 2, and I think these little lips clip in as well. There's at least 2 more clips that are going to clip into the back frame over here. There's a little plastic assembly, this right here, that it's going to clip into, along with going into the the 4 upper screws that I was telling you about earlier. But now with this out of the way, you have access to the crash bar bumper. Also, don't forget that you need to disconnect the your license plate light this right here goes, you can go ahead and disconnect it. You don't have to unlatch it from the bumper or anything like that. I just keep it right there just to keep it out of the way. Alright, so we're underneath the truck again. Here is the crash bar, and then these are the bolts. Since we are doing the OEM trailer hitch receiver, it's pretty straightforward once you get the bumper off, so we can just go ahead and get these things all nice and loose. I'll probably leave one end just, well, I don't know, I'll have to look. Now you can see the two other bolts. If you're new to the channel and this is your first time seeing any of our videos, please smash that like button, and if you could, subscribe to the channel. We do a lot of other things right now. We have a Porsche project that we just started recently. I'll be doing another video on that here soon. Got some of the parts in that I needed, so we can go ahead and get back on that video. It's been quite some time since I posted last, so definitely got to get back on the ball. Now we got this side free, so now just move on to the other side. Alright, so with all four bolts out on both sides, essentially I'm going to take the one that I have just set here out, and you can just slide this out. That's it. That part of the process is done. Now we're moving on to the installation, which is pretty straightforward. Basically, we're just gonna take the hitch receiver, bumper crash bar combination, just slide it on in right here. Just like so. It has these little stoppers on it to keep it from sliding back farther than what you want it to. Go ahead and hit one bolt in on either side to keep it in place, and that should be it. Now we just need to put the rest of the bolts back in. Alright, so I've gotten the bolts back on now. One thing that you don't need to worry about if you've bought the OEM Ford Maverick trailer hitch accessory is that it will already have Loctite inside of the nut, from what it looked like when I was looking at it earlier, and so you don't need to actually worry about putting any extra Loctite on your bolts. I mean, I guess if you want to, you could, but it's kind of unnecessary. Alright, well, that is it for installing the bumper hitch on the 2023 Ford Maverick. If you would like to watch part 2 for where we installed the wiring harness and put everything back together, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.